Yeah, so this is a meeting to discuss the pipeline authoring 3-year vision. I'm the UX designer for pipeline authoring, product designer, and we have our product manager, Dove, here, and Michael, who has lots of great ideas that we hope to tap into. Last time we covered lots of ground, just discussed all kinds of different ideas around improving the CI workflow in general. But I thought that it could be useful for us to meet again and dive a little deeper into the pipeline authoring experience itself. So if you look at the category direction for pipeline authoring, you'll see that there are a few kind of problem areas that we really want to focus on, starting with just improving the experience for creating your CI configuration, where we want to have more robust template system and things like that. We want to have more automation. And then also we would like to have some analytics that actually show you how the pipelines are performing based on the configuration, provide some automatic suggestions, maybe even apply those suggestions automatically. So these are just some ideas to kind of get us started and maybe spark some ideas and conversations around it. I'm not sure what would be the best process here. Like, we can just chat and talk, or we can try to put something in the mural. I'm not sure what would be the best way.
I think I can maybe give some guidance on how we can proceed from here. Like as Nadia mentioned, just recapping, our team goal is to make the authoring experience as easy as possible for our users. And one of the ways we measure that is by measuring the first time to gain pipeline. So we know that as a first-time user, working with YAMLs, trying to work your way around getting the first green pipeline can take a while. And we believe that if you do it as quickly as possible, then your experience will be easier, smoother, more likely you will use our product. So, which leads us to the second way that we can measure ourselves is by adoption. How will we gain more users? And like one of the ways we can do that is to like templating, as Nadia mentioned, and a great onboarding experience. So if we can like maybe think about how we can improve those two ways, the measurement time to first green, and increase the adoption of our users, this will be like, can give us maybe spark some more ideas around that areas. Those areas.
Yes, I think that's great to like focus on the specific areas. I think I've told that last week already, but to iterate on it again, when starting with CI/CD, there's a certain delay, which means you either get to know it succeeds or it does not. And waiting for the runners to execute the job, which can be like on GitLab.com, sometimes it gets delayed because there's lots of things in the job queue. But I would say many people try it out at first glance, even before maybe installing it themselves. They might just use a sandbox environment. And when the time to first success, or maybe even to first failure, is too long, they might skip on it. There are thoughts on maybe simulating the CI configuration and having some knowledge points inside in a way that you can auto detect that the syntax is wrong, which is live linting for YAML. This is already in progress. Another way would be to have a quick sandbox environment which does not provide you with a failed job. It provides you with a simulation, basically a business impact simulation somehow, to provide you quick feedback. This can get quite complex because the web parts or the GitLab server parts cannot, I think they cannot execute everything. And specifically the runner needs to take the portions which are then executed. I think there were some discussions also on the runner side to execute a YAML file locally and do some sandbox testing and linting and things like that. So we always need to keep in mind that there are two components involved, like the GitLab server side and also the runner, which has some extra magic involved to execute the jobs then. I'm thinking of, and this is like more like a long-term vision, to have a virtual runner somehow, where we can just throw in configuration and includes templates, resolver, everything, and you get a simulated result from it. Especially, you should have the option to maybe adjust certain thresholds or parameters for the job then. So you can like play around and see, when I changed this on the right-hand side, the exit status might change, or like the dependencies or DAC is really complicated to understand and get a grasp into. Maybe this simulation idea could solve some parts in that area. The other thing is, and this is somehow solved with the templates we already have, to add more fine granular templates, like the Hello World template, in a way that we kind of create job templates or job preparation templates, similar to the security SaaS Dust includes for Auto DevOps. So that you kind of have the exit one example I'm using in my workshops. You just run it, it does exit one, it outputs something, it's broken, and then you have kind of an inline comment or a pop-up which tells you, hey, now the pipeline is broken because we kind of forced it to break. Please change it to exit 0, and you have it green again, which is kind of the personal success level. And then you dive it further with, so I'm using a Golang Tanuki, which kind of prints an ASCII art. This could be a way of providing Hello World templates or easy learning templates, because the other templates with Golang and C++ and everything is all right. It's a good starting point. Still, we could also add more best practice templates like C++ with Ccache, Python specific stuff, Node.js stuff. This, I think some of the templates haven't been updated for a while. And we also need to make sure that our users understand that there's a drop down with the templates and they should use it. Because sometimes I'm opening the web IDE and asking what is inside. Yeah, I don't know what's next. And making the drop down more interactive somehow with, like, I don't know how to really do it from the UX perspective. But there should be the user journey to say, hey, maybe I've detected you are in a Golang project right now, and it auto selects the Golang CI template for me because it knows that there is like 90% Go code inside the repository. This doesn't work for projects which are new, but there could be some like auto detection and helping the users on the first steps from guessing what they are trying to do. I think in the first iteration, it needs us to define certain use cases, but at some point it could be some code intelligence or some learning involved. Now I'm stopping my monologue. I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think, first of all, I think it makes sense, like the way that the drop down is designed. And I had a chat with Nadia. I look at how, for instance, GitLab Actions have this really nice templates. They have like less templates that are than us, but it looks like really like so easy to use and consume. And once you select it, you know exactly on which template you're working on, and you have like these suggestions of like different actions and different jobs that you can do based on the template you just selected. So this is something that I think like we would definitely need to revisit. In terms of like detecting what's in your repo, this is also something that I think we discussed a bit. Just knowing, like figuring out what you have on your code, and by that providing you with some suggestions. I think like those 2 points are like exactly the kind of thoughts that like me and Nadia had in the last couple of weeks, just by looking at competitors and thinking about how can we improve our solution. So that makes validating, basically, that makes very sense what you just said.
So another thing that we've been discussing, not as much as the templates, but something that is in our radar, is introducing analytics, some kind of analytics and suggestions based on your pipeline configuration, so that not only for we're not sure exactly what it could look like. You know, we could have reports or and exactly what are the metrics that are important for the developers to see, like what kind of analytics would you be looking for. For example, one of the metrics that we can track is the speed for the pipeline, and that it's very useful because then we can talk about the cost efficiency and so on. But what are some other metrics that we may want to look into, and what could it look like, and what are the, you know, what are the pain points, the main pain points that we should try to address there?
I think so. The duration of the jobs is the first iteration, the first MVC I would try. We're collecting that already somehow. We make it available through the REST API. It kind of needs alerting and monitoring, but that's kind of a different stage, a different feature set. One way, like creating a report, is one way. We should let, how to say that, it's frustrating to wait for CI pipeline output. And if you, so when I'm building a new pipeline, for example, which I did lately for the CI monitoring webcast, I was just adding jobs, and then I was thinking, oh, let's add the code quality job or into the stage, and it took 7 minutes, and it was like, yeah, it's not really, it's blocking my whole pipeline. What can I do about it? And I said, okay, maybe let's add asynchronous dependencies like back, which makes the whole picture more complicated. You want to see the critical path, which is something you currently can only do with back, but we also want to have it visualized. And on the other side, it would be super nice or convenient when we have like certain data points of previous job runs in the pipeline, and we can suggest improvements based on that to the configuration and say, hey, this job is running for always between 5 and 10 minutes. Maybe you want to inspect the script part. This looks kind of, I wouldn't say fishy, but it looks, maybe you want to improve something inside. Or another thing is, you're using a default Docker image like dbn latest or dbn buster or something like that, and you always install apt-get update, apt-get install, and this takes quite a long time in the before script section. We could, for example, suggest to say, hey, do you want to create your own Docker image with the build tools pre-installed, or maybe use a different version to speed up the pipeline, because the environment should be the same. The thing is, these best practices are quite opinionated, so we're kind of need to find a way to make, or to get accepted in a specific sense. So we shouldn't push our users to do it or force them and say, hey, you definitely need to do that. More like a suggestion and saying, hey, like Clippy on the right-hand side, if you remember Office, hey, I found something to improve. Maybe you want to talk about it, or maybe you want to jump on it. The best thing would be like to have these tooltips and then link to the documentation, like the CI efficiency documentation, which we lately released. But yeah, it would be super nice to have that inside the editor. And from a viewpoint perspective, I would prefer a graphical editor in contrary to the YAML edit. Because especially when I'm starting with the configuration, I'm not like super confident with YAML. I need to do it because Puppet and Hira, and afterwards everyone uses YAML right now. Travis started it, and GitHub Actions also changed from the previous HCL format, which was kind of more object oriented, to YAML again, which is, I think they merged Azure DevOps with the Actions format somehow. It's super convenient. The problem is I cannot remember how to create variables. Is it like with a dash? Is it an array syntax? Is it something else? This is super complicated for me. And especially when I'm trying to explain it to others in a workshop or in a training, I think the first, you don't really know if there should be a space, there should be something else. In my perfect world, it would be abstracted away and saying, hey, this is like the first job. This is like from Visio or from an editor. It's like a code block from a flowchart. And you're defining your job, and you're defining like the Docker image, but it can be like something default. I don't care about it in the first iteration. Which command line do you want to execute? And this could be like echo exit1, for instance, for learning. And the visual, or like this, I don't know if it should be a separated thing, or like a learning course inside the editor somehow. This guides you and say, hey, now you've got one job. The next step would be, let's create some stages, or create stages and add a secondary job, and then have some sort of interactive learning. And the other benefit I see with having a graphical editor is somehow you can also attract people who are not like that deep into development, technical engineering, DevOps, whatever. Because they just want to use, for example, GitLab Pages to deploy a website. They don't care about the YAML configuration at all, I would say. Some do. It shouldn't pose a stereotype here. But I could imagine that like a drag and drop editor, it should be like connecting the pieces all together, could be a really nice feature to also attract like design management or non-technical teams to say, hey, I want to use GitLab CI CD. I don't care how the syntax is in the background. Let's generate it with tools, JSONnet, whatever is there. You can always edit the final result later on. But there's, in my opinion, there should be some sort of abstraction, removing all the default settings we don't need. And just having the first success, and then maybe a full embedded course which guides you to build a sample project with unit tests, with best practices applied for caching, for other things, and maybe even have a deployment attached because Gitpod is there or something else we can add somehow. Yeah, I'm always thinking in a mix of education, workshop, and making things easier. So again, stopping here, I want to hear your thoughts.
But it's always good because, like, you speak about education, and to some extent we educate our users on how to use CI. So it doesn't matter if you're teaching this in a course or you're teaching that through a working experience or working environment. Yeah, the graphic editor is something obviously that is on the roadmap, actually started working on. I almost see this as a crash course to YAML, because like eventually you need to know a little bit of YAML. You don't have to, but like you'll have those building blocks, and it's like you'll have like a basic and advanced settings. So like the basic settings, it's just like drag and drop. You don't need to know anything. But then you have like this advanced mode where you can magically see all the YAML, see what's like you're opening the hood, you see what's underneath the hood, and like if you feel comfortable, you can just dive into and like change few things in the YAML. If you don't, you can just close it and say, okay, I'm fine with how it is for now. Let's run it, and let's make it do its magic without even doing any changes to the YAML. So that was like my thoughts, like general thoughts on like how this should be. Like I don't see it as a completely decoupled from the YAML. So it's supposed to be some sort of an abstraction layer, but for the advanced users, we still need to provide them with all capabilities, because like there are some things you'll be able to do with the visual builder, but there are some things that you probably won't be able to do. So like ideally, like the most common things are the things that we'll do with the visual builder, and we'll add more and more features into that. But there is a limit to how much we can do, even with the visual builder. So once you feel that you're more like you learn and you know what you want to do, then you feel comfortable to like see what's behind the hood, open, see the YAML definition, and then like walk your way around it.
Yeah, I think having this combined or attached to one single editor where you can switch, this would be super nice. Also because oftentimes when you debug something or you do troubleshooting, you need to understand the YAML syntax to some extent, and it should be a way of easy starting, maybe even encouraging after you have created your first pipeline or first job to inspect the YAML syntax and say, hey, when you click this button, this keyword is getting added, some sort of interactive learning mode, to like, so just to remember, I think I started with GitLab CI 3 years ago, 4 years ago. I don't remember it exactly, but I couldn't figure out what is a keyword on the first level or on the top level and what is not. It was like, yeah, which job name should I pick? Should it be all test? Should it be job one? Is it a defined syntax? And I think these are like pain points or points you can abstract with a visual editor, but you also should encourage people to try it out and maybe even copy paste the YAML configuration from it. So I could imagine that the developers or teams are going to use the editor to try things out, generate a YAML configuration file out of it, and then copy paste it into a generic one or something like that. Or maybe even just trying out defining a job and using that YAML for something else. So like kind of a simulation mode, you have an editor with live linting, and then you use it for something else maybe.
What do you mean use it for something else?
Yeah, something else in a way that they have their own like sandbox environment. They are trying things out in their account, and they are actually working on an open source project or within a customer namespace in a group, and they have a central CI/CD configuration templating, because for security reasons, you might have like a remote CI/CD configuration, so it's not allowed in the project itself. It only is managed by approved people in a central group project. And they can make suggestions with, oh, when we like have this job, it will run 5 times faster. And the central responsible for the CI/CD configuration can approve it then. Because sometimes I hear it from customers or users, they don't want the developers to manage the CI configuration by themselves inside the project. They want to have it removed from a security perspective and have a central project managing this. And if you if you don't really have access to the central project and simulating and running it, you probably want to do that in your own local instance or in your own namespace. Like I keep testing the GitLab features in my own namespace, and then maybe repurposing it or creating a merge request for the upstream project.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Okay, thank you. That was very helpful. I personally got some clarity on some of the ideas that we've been discussing, and have some ideas on what it could look like. For instance, the visual builder that we're currently working on, I think we can further develop the designs that we have to be more educational and to have more guidance for the first-time users, because I think it is very nice that it's interactive. I don't know, Michael, if you've seen it or not, but we're currently working on this visual. It's not drag and drop, but you can interact with buttons, you can add stages and jobs, and there's it's like the split view where you see the YAML and you see the visual builder at the same time, which is nice. So there's an opportunity for us to have this kind of interactive education experience for sure.
It's under unofficial GitLab.tools. I can send you a link.
Yeah, I'd love to have a look. So my feedback could be overwhelming, but let's just.
It's just like it's just like a bit of a. It's not even a bit. It's like a POC, like a rough POC. So I send you the link on the chat here.
Okay.
So there is the visual pipeline builder where you can actually walk a bit with it. So.
This makes me really. That makes me happy. Thanks. I would say we should have like coffee chats or sync calls or think bigs. I don't know, like this more often. But I leave you with like, when you need me, please invite me. To have a thought or sharing the latest updates or something else. I can also try to connect more people from our community or from our coffee chats to provide additional feedback, or maybe even GitLab trainers I know, so they can provide more feedback on the learning curve.
Yeah, that would be very
resource,
helpful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, let's stay in touch, and I'll share this recording in the CI channel, and feel free to cross-post wherever.
Perfect.
Talk
Thank
soon.
you.
Have a good
Bye.
day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.